My name is Tess Pockert, and I am going to be sharing my story as someone who grew up with TEF/EA. I have no script, this is not prepared, so if you don't want to bear with me, give up now. So, I was a TEF/EA baby. If you don't know what that was, I will describe to you what I was born with. It's a defect. My personal defect, because it is different in different senses. I had here's my airway, here's my esophagus, correct? So my airway came up and it was perfectly normal, but my esophagus came up and it connected into that airway, and then the esophagus, the top of it, stopped and it was a little nub of nothing. It didn't connect, it didn't anything. So what they did with the surgery is when I was about a day old, they cut open my back on my right side, they opened up my ribs, deflated my lung, went up in there, and they cut the esophagus away from the airway, sewed up the airway on the outside where it was connected. They stretched the esophagus up, and then they opened up the top of my esophagus, and they stitched them together. Voila. I was a short gap, which means that it was an easier fix. They didn't have to take any other thing from a different part of my body to like replace the esophagus. I was very fortunate about that. So that's the surgery that had to be done. When I was in 5th grade, I would walk around telling people, hey, did you know that I was born with tracheoesophageal fistula? And they were like, who is this fifth grader? Who's this little kid? What is she talking about? My teachers thought I made it up. I don't know where, I don't know. But it was the only major surgery that I had to do. Like I said, I was really, really fortunate in which, portions of the defect I had and didn't have. A lot of babies also have heart defects that come with that, and I was lucky enough that my heart is fine from my knowledge. The only other surgery that I did have when I was about 2, they had to go back in and they had to re-stretch my esophagus because I was growing so much and it was unable to keep up with it. My only knowledge of that surgery is that it went well and I didn't have to have another one. But I did get my esophagus checked out a couple years back. I'm 24 now, by the way, in case anyone wanted to know. But a couple years back I did have it checked out. They went in with a camera and made sure that it was all fine. I didn't need to get it re-stretched out, or the person who actually did the procedure let me know that I should be lucky enough that I shouldn't have to do it at all again, actually. So that was awesome, super great news. Growing up as a TEF baby, if there are parents out there watching this that have TEF kids, I do want to say that there is hope for your kids to have a normal life, to be 24 and living in this little apartment that I am here and able to go to work and have friends and have a real life. There is hope for that, and I know every baby is born differently and the defects are different and the surgeries are different. But I just want to let you know there's some hope. So if you are a parent out there, please feel free to reach out to me for questions or anything. I recently was able to answer a couple of questions on a Facebook page, and some of the moms made me cry over, being able to hear the story of someone who's been through it, and that was so heartwarming that I could give a little bit of hope or information or just make somebody feel better is super cool. But I will be candid in this video about the repercussions, I guess, because that's a part of my life that a lot of people don't know or they don't understand, and that's what this video is here for. So it's, like I said, it's going to drag on. This first 5 minutes, I was just starting. So as a kid, I didn't have many repercussions. I was very, very lucky. But the one thing that really stuck with me through my childhood was any time that I would get sick. So I have extra scar tissue built up in my esophagus, and because of that, any time that I would get sick, even if it was like a little cold or virus, I would go to school hacking up a storm. I would feel fine, I'd physically be okay, but I would have to cough every couple minutes. I would end up having coughing fits to where I couldn't really breathe very well because I just had to cough so bad, and it was just so constant that it was really embarrassing. My teachers would call my mom and yell at her for letting me go to school. I ended up being able to have an agreement with a lot of my teachers. Anytime that I got sick, I would let them know and be like, hey, can I walk out of class when I really, can't stop coughing and I know I'm disrupting everybody. So once I started to figure that out, when I got into the older ages of elementary school, I was able to have those conversations and, figure out what I really needed. But that was probably the hardest thing I had to deal with because a lot of kids didn't understand and they kind of made fun of me for, how bad my cough was, and it sounded like a dying seal is what people would tell me. But besides the whole dying seal sound growing up that I got used to, and it's not traumatizing or anything anymore. It's just one of those tidbits you talk about, when I was a kid. But now, like growing up through middle school and high school, I was able to participate in sports and activities and any of it. I had 2 older brothers and I would be outside playing with them all the time. I was very fortunate of that. Physically, I grew up seemingly fine. My mom was a little more overbearing than others because she was worried about me, but that kind of came with the territory. It wasn't until high school when I was dancing all the time. That was the sport I chose growing up. I danced all different kinds of styles, but I loved hip-hop. It was what I did. I was 17 and I was actually going to Arts High School in Washington, and I thought I had just pulled a muscle in my back, and everyone else thought that I did, and so that's how we were treating it. After a while of not being able to figure it out, we ended up going to doctors. It took 2 years of my life, and during that time I was trying to still dance and be a professional dancer and make that all work. But after about 2 years of seeing doctors and psychiatrists, and man, they made me see everybody. I really ended up figuring out, after all that time, that I have fused ribs in my back with pinched nerves, and then I'm guessing as well, because none of this is concrete information necessarily, that my muscles grew in a little bit of incorrect places as I was growing up because of the deformity of my ribs. So the theory behind it, because I finally found out from a CT scan and talked to this really nice young doctor. He was the first one that was helpful in, probably a year before that. He did the CT scan and, showed me my fused ribs. It's the 5th and 6th rib. It's actually just pretty much right where they cut into my back where my scar is. But it's 5th and 6th, and it's fused about halfway through. So from my spine, it's perfectly fine from my spine, but then about halfway through it fuses together right around where my lung is. Because of that, it was causing me back pain. Surprise, surprise. But then the nerves were sending incorrect signals to my brain, or distress signals to my brain once my bones hardened at 17, at maturity. It started sending those signals, and so I wasn't only just having pain or discomfort from the ribs being fused or the muscles being agitated. It was pain signals being sent to my brain from those nerves reacting to what was going on. And that was the hardest part, because you can ice parts of your body, you can take Advil, whatever, but there was nothing to stop that nerve pain. And anytime my muscles freaked out, or anytime I was stressed out, or any of the sort, I would get pretty bad back pain. And it would be a nerve reaction that I was unable to stop. I did multiple things. I have tried everything. I am a regular chiropractor person, or massage, which are the basics, which help keep it at a nice pain level for me that isn't as bad. It obviously keeps me going on this daily life. But I have done everything. I mean, I've done a nerve block procedure to put steroids in my back, which helped for, a couple days, not long. I've tried to kill the nerves in my back. That procedure was horrifying, and I will never do it again because the nerves grew back, and it was the most painful thing of my life. I ended up having to take some really crazy meds to try to knock myself out of that pain. So I will never try to kill nerves again, and I suggest none of you do, because it kind of helped for a while, but then once it started to grow back, oh my goodness, I can't tell you how painful that was. I had somebody put needles in my back and do electrotherapy through acupuncture. They made me see a psychologist. I've tried a psychologist for the pain. That did nothing. I've done all different kinds of procedures and all different kinds of stuff. And what I realized is I had to stop dancing. That was really hard to do because I grew up with it, and I had to give it up. I wanted to be a professional dancer, and I just couldn't deal with the pain that came with that, because with those long rehearsals and moving my body in such ways, it would agitate my back so much that when I realized that I had to stop dancing was when I would come home from rehearsal and I would not be able to move. I would be in bed with tears streaming down my face, unable to physically get out of my bed. I had never dealt with any sort of pain like that. I had never broken any bones. I had never, had crazy surgeries or anything. Like I said, I was a lucky kid. But that kind of woke me up and made me realize that living in that kind of a pain and not being able to do daily things, I couldn't get up and work out after that. I couldn't get up and go to work or go to school. I was pretty much done for the day when that happened. Made me realize that dancing was not worth all of that pain. So after realizing that dancing was not worth that kind of a pain, I gave it up and worked on recovery and figuring out how I can still be a healthy person with that kind of a pain. Pretty much at the same time when I was dealing with that, I started to get pretty bad acid reflux, which is something that I grew up with being worried about. My mom constantly would ask me and make sure that I wasn't having acid reflux, because she knew that that was a symptom that, needed fixing for kids that had TEF in their background. It was a bad sign that more things could be going wrong. So I started to have acid reflux, and they went out. That's when they checked out my esophagus and made sure it was okay, which it was, but my flap to my stomach is too loose, and same with the top of the lining of my stomach, so it doesn't hold the acid in there like a normal person, so it then becomes overactive in my esophagus, constantly coming up. So I started taking Prilosec. I started out with 1 a day per recommendation by the doctor, and he told me I could up it if it got worse, but he didn't know that I went through the roof with that. I now, at 24, I think I was 20 when I started taking it 4 years ago. I am now at 4 a day, and I am still getting sick from it. This is kind of the part that I haven't talked to anybody about, except for my mom a little bit. I'm getting sick to the point of, even if I take Prilosec, 4 pills the day before, I still can end up getting sick if I, eat the wrong thing, or if, I don't know, I haven't really figured out this part yet. After being sick, I don't know, I've probably been really, really sick once a week for the past couple months. I finally decided that I think I'm going to try to get surgery for that, to tighten that up, which is a very invasive surgery and is not fun. Gonna have another scar on my stomach. Gonna have to take medical leave at work, which is a little terrifying, but at the same time I'm lucky enough to have really good medical and the possibility of medical leave at work, and so I'm dealing with that right now. That's probably the newest thing, and I knew that was coming because I started off at 1 Prilosec a day, and then went to 2, and then went to 3, and now I'm at 4, which is not sustainable in the first place. I wouldn't recommend that for anybody. But now that I'm taking 4 a day and still getting sick and having to sit here and eat dry bread and baking soda water on top of it to try to keep myself able to go to work and able to go hang out with someone or work out or whatever I'm doing, that made me realize that something needs to change. Like, I can't keep up being sick. It's one thing to be in pain, it's another thing to feel like you're gonna puke all over everybody often. That's not fun. So yeah, that's pretty much my story and the repercussions that I live with. My back, I have figured out most of the time how to still work out and stay in decent shape. I mean, I'm not like ridiculously strong, but I'm not huge, I'm not scrawny, I'm somewhere in the healthy middle. I've figured that out enough to be okay with it. I'm still in pain. I mean, my pain level on a daily basis for my back is probably a 2 out of 10, which is not bad, especially when you're used to it. It kind of just becomes a part of you. So I figured out my back, and there's specific sports that I can't do. I can't go bowling, of all things, because it pisses my back off so much I end up in bed. But yet I can mountain bike once a week and be fine, or I can go play basketball with friends or disc golf or whatever it is, and still be healthy. The only thing I haven't figured out yet is the stomach thing, but yeah, I know the surgery I need to do, and I think that's coming in the next couple months, so I'm ready for that next adventure to better my life and keep my body healthy enough to go to work and everything, do everything with my friends or have a normal life. But yeah, that's my story. I hope that you learned something about me or you learned something about TEF today. I hope you're not bored to death, which you might be. My apologies. But this is a video I've thought about making for a while, and you know, we all live with different traumas or different situations, and this is my story. And for anyone else dealing with pain on a daily basis, chronic pain or sickness or whatever, like, there's people who understand, and it sucks, but at the same time, making the best out of your life is what matters. And I know that my life could be so much worse, and so, you know, if yours is, I don't mean to diminish that at all. Everyone's story is their own, and I hope that everyone is able to find their best life and figure out how to live it comfortably and happily. I know I'm still working on mine, and I'm going to continue to, but yeah, that's my story. I will stop yelling at you guys about my information. If you guys have any questions, or if you are a TEF parent, like I said before, please feel free to reach out. My parents were not fortunate enough to have the internet when they were going through this, and so I'm so happy you guys have these types of resources. Please use them to the fullest. Those Facebook pages with other moms, you know, contact information and different forums that there are to reach out to people, and events even now I've found out that I didn't know. So yeah, that's my world. I'm healthy, I'm living and thriving and figuring out life just like anybody else. So thanks for listening to my story. I hope you guys have a great day. That's it. Okay. That didn't stop the video. See?